Continuing debate, the honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what we do in this place matters. This place is the only place at the federal level that is a democratic institution. This is Canada's democratic institution. The other place is not. It is appointed. The Prime Minister and his cabinet are not. They are appointed. In Canada, we don't elect governments. We don't elect prime ministers. We elect a legislature, a single national legislature of 338 Canadians to sit here on behalf of Canadians to make decisions. And the way we make decisions in this country under our constitutional order is not through the tip of a sword, but through debate, through our words. And the words we use in this place influences the votes, which are votes on motions and bills that lead to decisions taken by Parliament. And so, Mr. Speaker, protecting members of Parliament in their execution of their duties, in the words that they are freely allowed to use on the floor of this House, in the actions they take, whether it's in respect of legislation in front of this House, motions in front of this House, or it's in respect of administrative matters, is incredibly important. Members should be free from interference, from coercion, from threats. And that is why what is in front of us today is so very important. Because what we do in this place matters. And what we did in this place in 2020 and 2021 mattered. On November 18th, 2020, the House adopted a motion calling on the government to ban Huawei from our national core telecommunications network, and also called on the government to come forward with a robust plan to combat foreign interference. That motion ultimately put enough pressure on the government to make a belated decision to ban Huawei from our national telecommunications network. Several months later, in early 2021, this House, on February 22nd, 2021, this House adopted a motion recognizing that the PRC's repression of some 12 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang province in Western China constituted a genocide under the 1948 Genocide Convention. And that mattered, because what came out of that was coordinated action between the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada to impose sanctions on a number of individuals and one entity in Xinjiang in response to these gross human rights violations. What we did mattered back then, and the PRC noticed, and the PRC implemented a full spectrum response against members of this House, some legitimate and some illegitimate. They pursued legitimate diplomatic action, they pursued legitimate counter-sanction action, and that, Mr. Speaker, is not in question. What is in question is that they illegitimately violated international law and targeted members of this House. Justice Hogue, as the previous member has outlined how they, in the 2021 election, interfered. CSIS concluded clearly that the PRC interfered in the 2021 election, and Justice Hogue found exactly that in her initial report of May 3rd of last week. The PRC also illegitimately targeted 6 members of this place who have come forward on this point of privilege. And that, Mr. Speaker, is the question in front of us today. These members were cyber-attacked by the PRC. 6 members among 18 legislators in Canada that were cyber-attacked by the PRC. And some of those 18 are members of this House, 6 in particular. They were attacked for being members of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, and simply attacked for doing their job in upholding international rule of law, and criticizing the PRC for its gross violations of international law, whether related to the genocide against the Uyghur people, which is a contravention of the 1948 Genocide Convention, whether it is their illegitimate and illegal crackdown in Hong Kong, a violation of the 1997 Joint Sino-British Declaration, which guaranteed Hong Kongers their rights and liberties for 50 years from 1997, whether it's the PRC's violation of the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, where they're harassing other states and other fishing vessels and other marine vessels in the South China Sea, or whether it's their violations of the trade system that has been established under WTO rules, the status that they obtained in 2000 under most favored nation status that they are obliged to uphold. And as a result of these 6 MPs being targeted, our counterintelligence agencies in the Five Eyes Alliance started to take action. They started to monitor what was going on with APT-31, a hacking group that is an organ of the state of the People's Republic of China, a hacking group that is run out of Hubei's State Security Department, which is an arm of the People's Republic of China's Ministry of State Security. Their massive secret service state apparatus that is not only monitoring their own citizens in the PRC, but citizens of countries abroad. The FBI discovered this hack by APT-31 in 2022, and they immediately passed it along to the Communications Security Establishment, part of the Government of Canada's national security apparatus. CSE, in turn, did its job. It passed the information along to parliamentary officials, and this is where the system broke down. Well, I have absolutely no doubt that the IT officials and personnel in the House of Commons administration did their job to ensure the integrity of our IT systems. That is not the question in front of us today. The question in front of us today is transparency. The question in front of us today is sunlight and transparency, and why 6 members of this House who were targeted by the PRC through a cyber attack were not informed at the time that the Government of Canada became aware. The government tells us all the time that we need to be situationally aware. Well, you cannot be situationally aware if you are not armed with information. And so what the Procedure and House Affairs Committee should be looking at if this motion is adopted is why these 6 members were not informed at the time when the CSE and when parliamentary officials were made aware. And that ultimately, Mr. Speaker, is the responsibility not only of the executive branch of government and the CSE, but is also the responsibility of the Speaker and the officials under which the Speaker is responsible for. In the United States and in the United Kingdom, elected members of national legislatures are regularly informed about foreign interference threat activities that are directed to them. That is a fact. That has not happened here in this case and has not happened in the past. And Mr. Speaker, the argument about security clearances in this place, that parliamentary officials knew about these attacks 2 years ago, but couldn't tell members because they didn't have security clearance, does not hold water. Philip Dufresne, the former law clerk and parliamentary counsel, gave a legal opinion to committees of this House and many other occasions, indicating that Section 18 of the Constitution Act 1867 makes it clear that in this place, members of Parliament have an unfettered right for documents, for information that is not restricted by anything else, that's not restricted by laws that have been adopted by this place, not restricted by whatever views the Government of Canada may hold on classified materials. And so when parliamentary officials became aware of it, they should have informed these members. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will finish by encouraging members of this House to vote for the motion so that the Procedure and House Affairs Committee can take this matter up and ensure that in the future, when a Five Eyes intelligence agency notifies part of our national security establishment, whether it be the Communications Security Establishment, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, the Department of National Defence Intelligence Unit, or any other part of the security establishment, that Canadian members of Parliament are being targeted by a foreign state or by non-state actors, that those members are informed forthwith so that they can be situationally aware and protect themselves and their families against these hostile threats. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.